Right, there we go. Well, thank you for joining me today, Blahpy.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah. I gotta tell you, we did a call. It was like 3 hours long, me and Headstrong and Josh. And I didn't spell your name right once. Like, they were like, oh, Blahpy found this. And I was like spelling it like Blop, like, I don't know, like Bloppy. And
Oh goodness.
they spelled it out for me, but they spelled it wrong. They spelled it like Blahpy.
Oh, don't worry. It happens all the time.
Oh my goodness. So, when did you start speedrunning Jak and Daxter?
So I was actually a Jak 3 runner. I've never run Jak 1.
Okay.
But I started in about 2013, I think. And I found it by I would watch a guy on YouTube called Tom Jack who uploaded lots of videos of like just unusual things he'd found, glitches, things like that. And I found that really interesting, but he also did speedruns, and through that I managed to find some streamers as well, the Rixer and Bill Braid, and I would watch their streams regularly and eventually ended up running Jak 3 myself.
Okay. So we have so you're saying like 2013, but you started with because you ran Jak 3.
Yeah, I started in the end of 2013.
Was it like one homogenous community, or was there like, I don't know if there were like separate I don't want to say like, I don't know. I have this like weird visual in my head of like the people huddling around a Skype group like a fire.
Yeah, so most of us talked in a Skype group. There was a bit of a language barrier. Like we've had a couple runners in the past that spoke French and they they could speak English as well, but sometimes it was a little difficult to communicate with them. But for the most part, we were just all in one Skype group, and we would call every day and discuss runs and strategies. And it was quite common back then to if you tuned into someone that was doing a run on stream, they would probably be in a Skype call with 5-10 people.
Mm-hmm. Was that how many people were there at the time?
I would say there was quite a lot of runners in. I'd say there were like 5 to 10 runners in each game.
Okay.
I think
sure.
Jak 2 and 3 were a little smaller than Jak 1. I think they always have been. Because they're very different.
Yeah, they're really different, right? Like, because 2 is Jak but GTA, and then 3 is Jak but it's with cars.
Yeah. I would say Jak 1 probably had a good 5 to 10 80% runners, and then probably 5 or so 100% runners as well.
Okay. So the runner at that time with the world record in 2013, that would have been Zeppelin's?
I think when I started watching, Bonesaw had taken it.
Okay. Let's see. Oh yes, you know what? I should ask you the questions instead of answering them myself.
Oh, that's fine.
Yeah, you even told me that earlier. All right, so we have. Talk to me about Bonesaw a little bit. Like, just we don't have to get into the extracurriculars, but like, what was Bonesaw like as like a speed runner?
I mean, he was, a great runner at the time. He was one of 3 people that were very competitive. I haven't talked to him a whole lot, to be honest. So I don't know as much about him as the other runners, perhaps.
Okay. Well, how about Prier?
Prayer was a really good runner. He was always very competitive. And we often found that, like, if Prayer or Bill was streaming, the other was watching them, and trying to pick up new strategies and things that they'd figured out.
Yeah, awesome. All right. I know you found a bunch of stuff. I want to ask you about some of it. And really, honestly, I mean this with all sincerity. Talk nerdy to me. I mean, you can't get too technical for me.
Okay, so I would say what really got me into it a lot was that the very first time I watched Bill Braid streaming, I like saw part of the route and I was kind of like, I think there might be a better way to do this, and I messed around for a while, and I found a new strategy that saved like 2 seconds or something, really insignificant. But then Bill and Prayer started doing it in their runs, and it made me really excited, like seeing them do the strategy that I'd found. It was just like a simple jump off of a rock that you're not supposed to jump off, but like it still made me excited to see that
Yeah, absolutely.
I contributed something.
Yeah, you contributed a fair bit. You got talk about lava walk.
I didn't find Lava Walk. I don't even know who found Lava Walk. There's a lot of
Didn't you
really.
find the specific walk part?
I was the first person to get it in the crew arena.
Okay. I guess that's what I'm more or less talking
Sorry,
about.
not crew. Claw.
Yeah.
Crew's a different game.
He's the guy with the
Yeah.
little legs, right? Oh, I talk like this.
Yeah, that's Crew. I'm thinking of the wrong game.
Yeah, you're fine.
Claw, yeah. I was the first person to get the Lava Walk there, but I wasn't.
You didn't
I
find
didn't
it.
discover the spot, and I didn't pull the skip off.
Okay.
So I guess I was involved, but
You were involved. You were there.
I certainly wouldn't take credit for it.
Well, would you take credit for pause buffers?
Yes, I absolutely would.
Okay, so let's talk about pause buffers.
So when I found pause buffer, it was kind of an interesting scenario because we actually just discovered a new skip between me, Qatar, and Piggleberry. But it was right at the end of the run, and it required you to pause on a single frame, which is 17 milliseconds in this game, which isn't exactly something that's reliable, especially an hour into a run. And at this point, we'd only found it for a couple days, and no one really wanted to do it because it was too hard and too risky.
Right.
Throwing a run away on something that is really unlikely to succeed. So my goal was to find something that a way to like make it easier to time the trick, rather than having to hit this really tiny window. So I tried a lot of things to try and like make it so that it paused itself at the right time, and things to like delay the pause and things like that. And I ended up kind of giving up and just mashing buttons, and then it happened. Then I had to figure out how I did it.
That's a bit of a tangent, but I had a guy, I used to work with him, and we had fired somebody, and my boss says, okay, now wipe his passwords. And so we did. And then he went to this guy and said, all right, now set new ones. And so my friend just mashed the keyboard and didn't keep track of what the passwords were. And so my boss came back and was like, all right, what's the password, Joe? And it was like, I don't know. I just mashed the keyboard. So it was like, just the idea of like mashing it. It's like, all right, now I got to figure out what I did here.
Yeah, so thankfully there was a really good tell for it, which was that it opens like a slightly corrupted version of the inventory when you do it.
Okay.
And so you see like your inventory pops up, and then a few seconds later the game will pause. I think it's about 2.5 seconds.
Okay. Can you explain kind of what they are? Just like there's a third person that doesn't know what they are.
Yeah, okay. So basically, when the game's paused, you can't be in a cutscene, but that's not normally really useful information because you can't move when it's paused. But what a pause buffer lets you do is you can make the game be essentially paused, but you can still move for a couple of seconds before you actually get stuck in place. So what that basically means is that you have a a window of 2.5 seconds where you can go do something that would put you in a cutscene, but it doesn't actually happen until afterwards.
Right. Well, up until this point, every cutscene skip was really convoluted, right? Like I'm thinking of Red Sage cutscene skip, which is like every time that someone has like thanked. God help me. Every time someone has explained it to me, I feel like I understand it less and less. But it's like because the cutscene bubble for it is really tiny inside the hut, there was no other way that you could like die and hit it at the same time like you could for
Right.
I think I
Yeah.
understand this game. Yeah.
So
Good.
the reason that it was so convoluted is because it was known for quite a long time that you could like hit the button on the portal and very quickly save and load the game, and you would not have the cutscene until you went close to that area again. But the like area that you need to be within is really massive.
Right.
If that makes sense. So if you go like anywhere even vaguely close to where that cutscene starts, it'll just play anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So it required a really convoluted setup to avoid that, so that when you saved and loaded, you ended up really far away, basically.
What's that feeling what's the feeling that you felt when like something you found saved like almost 3.5 minutes?
Oh, it was crazy, right? So when I found it, the first thing I actually found with it, my like original thought was just to walk straight into the Citadel, use it to go behind the cutscene, and skip saving and loading, and it saved like 5 or 10 seconds, and it worked perfectly. And I went to show some people. I started streaming, and I got Headstrong and Pickleberry in a Discord call.
Mm-hmm.
No, Skype. It would have been Skype back then. And I showed them it, and then I accidentally skipped the cutscene while I was showing them, and we were very excited because it also not only did it save a lot of time, but it was at the time when we were getting really close to sub 1, and it like tipped it over the edge of possibility.
Yeah, it kind of made the grind for it because like Headstrong had just gotten the record. She had like a 103.13. And then all of a sudden you have 3.5 minutes of time save from cutscene skips. It's like, all right, just keep playing well, you know?
Right, because this instantly opened up 4 skips, and yeah, and another run like that with all the skips is sub 1, so we knew it was possible at that moment. It was very exciting, and I think there was a big rush to try and be the first person to get there.
Right. How hype was that? How hype was the sub 1 run? Like when it happened?
Oh, it was like it had been people's goal for years to make that a possibility, and to have someone achieve it was probably one of the most, well, definitely one of the most exciting events that's happened in speedrunning this game.
Right. I want to talk to you about Backward Cell. Because I believe that you put that into the document when no one else had mentioned it. And now it's in the script. So now you have to talk to me about it.
Oh, right. So, there's a level called Mountain Pass that connects like the second major area to the third one.
Mm-hmm.
And when you drive through it the first time, there's a cell that you can't actually get normally. The way to unlock it is that you have to go to Snowy Mountain and unlock a yellow eco vent that lets you shoot fireballs, and then you can break a rock and go and pick it up afterwards. But that means going through the level twice.
Right.
So something that we tried for a long time was just to get there on foot, because it was possible to walk through the level on foot. It was just kind of slow. But being able to jump up, there was like this one ledge, right? That if we could jump up it, it would make walking through it like 30 seconds faster than it was before. Because it was already known that you could walk through and pick it up. It just took forever, and it wouldn't have been worth it. But if you could jump up this one ledge that was really high, then it would work. And I kind of just grinded it a bunch and got lucky once. I didn't have much proof of it, but I ended up convincing, Bill Braid and Goofy to try it, and Goofy managed to figure out exactly what made it work. Which is really exciting as well, because I kind of thought it would be something that happened once and never got replicated because it was too hard. And
yeah, exactly. It's cool. I mean, it's awesome when stuff that you find ends up in the run.
Yeah, and I am really glad that Goofy figured out a way to do it every time. Because I think at the time I kind of expected it to just be forgotten about because it was too hard.
You were also a part of the group of people that found the not RTA viable lava tube skip. Right?
I would say that the main contributors were honestly Qatar and Headstrong, but I was involved.
Hey, listen, man, they both put you there.
Yeah, they did.
What was the hardest part about that? I'm pretty sure it's the roll jump, and I know Qatar has explained it to me. But because it's really, I mean, if I thought Red Stage cutscene was kind of crazy, like this whole thing is insane. There's a lot of reasons why it's not RTA viable, but
yeah, no one's even come close to doing it RTA, and I don't think anyone probably will ever bother if they're even good enough to.
That's a good disclaimer. Not that nobody could, but nobody would bother, because why would you go through the effort, right? But talk to me a little bit about that process and what, I guess, highlight a few things about what specifically what made it so impossible.
So most of the ground in Lava Tube just burns you if you walk on it, right? And we did know that if we got all the way to a checkpoint in the middle of it, we would get the zoomer and we'll be able to carry on without having unlocked enough, without having collected enough power cells to unlock the zoomer. But the problem was that you could get crazy far on foot by going to Spider Cave, getting extra health, going into Lava Tube, and going through it on foot, because there were random cold spots that just didn't hurt you, right?
Right.
And we could actually find them by just driving the zoomer around and waiting to see where it doesn't heat up. And we'd be like, oh, it's not heating up here, that's another cold spot. And we would we mapped them all out, and we could get really far, but we couldn't get far enough. We couldn't even get close to far enough. Eventually it was theorized that we could use the the out of bounds that Bill Braid used for the Red Sage cutscene.
Yep.
And we had this kind of idea that we could just ledge grab around the edge, and Headstrong did manage to pull that off. And it let us get a little bit further, but it still wasn't far enough. But it like, all that work only saved 1 health. Like, ledge grabbing all the way around the edge of their level completely blind saved you 1 health and let you get a little tiny bit further. And so eventually Qatar found the scout fly boosted, which was interesting because the way that there's been a lot of like developments and how to pull that off that have made it a lot easier. The way he did it originally was hard to even do like tool assisted, because whenever you move, it like resets the timer on when it's going to jump, and he needed it to jump at the right time and then do a boosted off of it,
right,
to make it to the next cold spot. So he spent like hours trying to get that and eventually managed to make it work, which was really exciting. And then they still weren't even close.
It's like, yeah, if you do all of that, your reward is the ending.
Another enormous barrier. You save 1
Yeah.
health and yeah.
Yeah. It's insane.
And then came his roll jump into the pillar, which I don't know how I even came up with it, to be honest.
The roll jump into the pillar, like, had to be explained to me like 4 times. I think that some people thought that they knew how it worked, but then Qatar was like, no, you have no idea how this works. Let me explain to you how this works. It's my life's work.
So I'm not going to pretend to understand it because I haven't done it, but
it's so crazy. But
you
it's
have
like,
to
good.
You have to land on like the very tip of it, because otherwise you'll slide off. So you're already landing in the perfect space, and then you've also got to slide over it, which is like very, very hard to control. It's not something it's not a technique that's used anywhere else in the game.
Yeah, they don't have the slide move in the game, right? It's not like a slide button.
Oh yeah, but it's not a technique that we use in runs anywhere else
Right.
either. So
So that's not it, right? And then you guys, I think Headstrong accidentally finds idle deload, which I think is so funny that it was found by accident by waiting too long. Like, it's just like one of those like weird, like, oh, I like, just like the amount of time that had gone by and nobody had accidentally found it.
yeah, so Headstrong was struggling with pause buffers, and just kind of sat there practicing it, and it happened.
Yeah, she said that her pause button was broken, which I think is a clever excuse for that Headstrong was not good at pause buffers. That's my conspiracy theory.
Oh, it probably was. I think a lot of runners have gone through a lot of controllers so, over the years.
Then the real lava tube skip comes out. How insane. Like, the game went from being like movement with cutscene skips, right? That's like the speed run. And then tell me how hype how crazy the first run with lava tube skip was.
There were a lot of skeptics for a long time that it would even be possible with the new method. But the way that they did it was basically they would do races, and they would just try to get it for like an hour, and then they would come back the next day. When I say they, I mean Headstrong and Qatar. They would just race it every day until someone got lucky and got it. And the first run with it was like, it wasn't the record, right? It was several hours long, but it was still amazing that someone had done it at all.
Yeah, it was like, I think it was almost 2 hours. It was like an hour 51. At least that's the first one they told me about.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds right. And so then we just knew it was like, this is going to change the game.
Mm-hmm. Did it almost kind of like cheapen how crazy Fire Canyon skip was? Right? Because like Lava Tube skip is insane, but then like you have like Fire Canyon, it's like, all right, well we already did this already.
Oh, sorry, I was talking about Lava Tube. Were we talking about Fire
No,
Canyon?
I'm saying like I moved ahead. I was like, it kind of cheapens it a little bit because it's like, man, we already had this really great, like cut the game in half experience, you know?
No, not at all, because we were still convinced for a long time that Fire Canyon skip would be impossible too.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually, Bobby did figure out a way to do it. But
here's a question.
Oh, sorry. Yep.
No, you're fine. What made skipping Fire Canyon so difficult? Like, what is like the? Because you found a lot of stuff. You found a bunch of stuff in this game. What is the challenge when you're trying to skip Fire Canyon? Like, if you were to go back in time, like, tell me what is the thing that's keeping it from being possible?
Okay, so there's two things that make Fire Canyon a lot different from Lava Tube.
Mm-hmm.
The first thing is that Lava Tube had those cold spots where you could walk, and it would be you wouldn't take any damage, and you could kind of jump from safe spot to safe spot to get through some of the level.
Right.
But the bigger thing was that when you take damage in Fire Canyon, it bounces you back towards the start of the level, and you can't control your character during that. On Lava Tube, you just take damage and then you can carry on moving. But in Fire Canyon, it actually throws you back to the start of the level.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why they were made differently, they just were.
It might have been like someone in testing was able to get on foot somewhere into Fire Canyon. You know, like, because there's like little ramps and stuff that you can jump on. Like,
yeah, perhaps.
I mean, we're speculating about about a 20-year-old game, right?
Perhaps they just wanted to make it really obvious that you're supposed to do something else before you go through this level.
It's like shades of Super Mario 64, right? Where he like just like yeets off in an arc. It, like bounces away. I mean, you can control that, but okay. The last question I have for you that I've written down is someone. I had not heard this. I've talked to a bunch of people. I had not heard anything about this. There was a rivalry between Jazz and Josh. Is this anything that you can comment on?
Honestly, I don't really know. It might be better to. Do you have an interview with Josh?
What? I do, yeah.
Yeah, if you I'm sure he'd be able to tell you better than I can.
Yeah.
I really don't know.
I usually like to say like, oh, does anyone like if it's like well known enough, everybody knows about it, right? Like if it's like with the last video we did, everybody had something to say about Zem versus Scotto. You know, everyone had like their 2 cents in on that.
I mean, there was a time where it was kind of funny because they would keep trading it back by 1 second at a time. But I'd say the community's always been very cooperative. It's not really like, oh, this person's better, this one's my favorite. It's always just been everyone working together.
Yeah, that's great. That's what I like to hear. Is there anything that you wanted to talk about that I didn't ask you?
Good question. I did write some notes, so I'll have a quick look.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think I've got through most of my notes. I think it was really amazing that Bobby managed to make Fire Canyon skip work. Honestly, it was such an enormous challenge, a lot bigger than Lava Tube. We never thought it would be possible, but
Was that so? That was Bobby, and then was it Luigi that was trying to was the one that was trying to put it into a run?
Yeah, Luigi pulled it off in a run.
That's pretty nutty, right?
Yeah, and Bobby went through a few versions of it. The first version was like so crazy that it just like it was even less realistic than the original lava tube skip. Like he's
good.
grabbing his way along an invisible ledge for like 10 minutes. And the invisible ledge, by the way, is actually like the plane under the map that kills you if you touch it, but apparently you can grab the edge of it for some reason.
It's the version that's so crazy that people that's the most succinct way that it's been explained to me. It's because it's like
yeah,
it just I mean, this game has so much crazy stuff in it. And it doesn't look like that way from the outside, that it would be like this like major broken game.
Yeah, we never seem to run out of surprises.
No, don't worry. You guys, I joked that you'll find Geyser Rock skip. You'll just like zombie hover your way back to Sandover Village from Geyser Rock. You'll just fly. You'll sky hook. You'll make some you'll grab a cloud. You'll ride the death plane. I don't know. So
yeah, there's some crazy ideas out there. There's one that's almost seems promising, but it's so uncontrollable. Where they go to Forbidden Jungle and they basically just make a ton of lag, and the bridge kind of doesn't work anymore, and you can get flung out like. Well, the idea is to get flung all the way to the final boss from a bridge in Forbidden Jungle.
That's like the only way you could go any faster, right? Is it's like, all right, we're gonna do Geyser Rock, then we're gonna go fling ourselves from Forbidden Jungle and land at the final boss.
Like this is a realistic idea that people have considered a possibility.
Is there like video of it?
I could find you a video of it happening. Like it doesn't seem to be controllable in any way at all, and the chance of getting sent to like the final boss is probably never going to happen, even in a tool assisted run. But I could find you a video.
Yeah, absolutely. Send that to me after we're done. But all right. Was there anything else?
I don't think so. If you have any other questions, you can feel free to hit me up another time, though.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, thank you for joining me today. I really appreciate this. I'm gonna go ahead and kill the recording.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for doing this.